Hey booktube, thanks for joining me again. My name is Tara and this is my January 2021 wrap up. So in the month of January, I completed / read 10 books in total. I had 2 3-star books this month, 5 4-star books, and 3 5-star books. Now, most of these books I've already discussed in previous videos that I will link in the cards on my weekend reads, so I will not go into grand detail about the synopsis or about my thoughts on them. I will mention them in the rating that I gave them, but I will talk about the 4 books I believe that I have not shared with you yet. We'll start with the ones that I've already shared. First of which is The Rage of Dragons, which is the Burning series by Evan Winter. This is book number 1, and I gave 4 stars to it. Next, Your Money or Your Life by Vicki Robin. This was a nonfiction read, and I gave it 3 stars. The Stone Sky by NK Jemisin, which is the final book in the trilogy, the Broken Earth trilogy by NK Jemisin, and I gave it 4 stars. Obsidio, which is the 3rd and final book in the Illuminae Files series, I gave it 4 stars. The Autobiography of Malcolm X, a nonfiction work by Alex Haley, 5 stars. And the final book that I've discussed before is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy, 3 stars. So I'm gonna start now with the books that I haven't mentioned to you yet. First of which is the 2nd book in the Burning series by Evan Winter called The Fires of Vengeance. This book follows Tal Solarin, who is the main character and who is now the Queen's champion, as he moves forward in continuing to avenge his father's death. Book 2 was definitely fierce, fast-moving, graphic, action-packed, just as book 1 was. This book also gave more of a background history and of the clans and how certain people in power came to be. So we're getting more of the storyline in book 2. Overall, I did like this book better than I did Rage of Dragons, which is book 1. And I believe that's because book 1, I had to become acclimated to the world. And once I began to understand and began to put the pieces of the story together, I was able to follow along better, which made book 2 overall better for me. Oh, if I didn't say Fires of Vengeance, I gave it 4 stars. Second book I want to talk about is Butterfly 3 by Ashley Antoinette. So the last time I talked about Ashley Antoinette's book Butterfly 2, its prequel, I stated how young and dumb the main character Morgan was throughout this book, and that hasn't changed in book 3. She is still just as stupid. I'm honestly starting to become quite annoyed with her as a character. However, Ashley Antoinette's writing is so engaging and so hypnotizing, I guess would be the word that I would want to use, just because this is an urban fiction novel. Obviously, black characters, deals with a lot of drama, love, hate, fast-moving, action-packed. A lot more truths are revealed in this 3rd installment, and along with, deceit, betrayal, the typical tropes that you get in these books. I did give this book 5 stars. Just because Ashley Antoinette has a way of keeping you engaged, and it's still a fantastic story, even though Morgan herself is a pain in my side, continuing to read about her antics. Next book, a nonfiction read called Digital Minimalism by Newport. I gave this book 4 stars. It should have been 3.5. So it says that digital minimalism is a philosophy of technology use in which you focus your online time on a smaller number of carefully selected and optimized activities that strongly support things you value, and then happily miss out on everything else. So this book would suggest how to curb your enthusiasm for social media consumption. So, you know, on most iOS devices, if you have an iPhone or iPad, you now have a way to check and monitor your screen time. How often are you picking up that device? How often are you checking these social media feeds? The book also details how there are engineers that create these apps and create these sensations to where you virtually have a slot machine in your pocket. It is almost this feeling, this conscious feeling that you can't help but to constantly pick up your phone or your iPad or your device or whatever it may be, out of boredom, out of your need for consumerism, out of habit. And that much screen time, that much inability to control these impulses to constantly want to be on our screens and constantly press a like button and constantly have this need to feel noticed, or to have that slot machine feeling of, you know, just one more click, just one more time. This is, in essence, he's explaining, can be detrimental to one's own sight. It was extremely eye-opening for me once I enabled the screen time feature on my phone, how often I pick up my device and how often I am on certain apps like Instagram. I don't have Facebook, YouTube, but I've taken some of his suggestions and implemented those into my own life and into my son's life, who is unappreciative of my efforts, obviously. But this book overall was eye-opening as to, again, how addicted we have become as a society to our devices, instead of putting them down for an hour or 2 hours, not sitting in front of a television, doing something that will engage your brain that does not involve technology in the least. So again, 3.5 stars. I did not gain a ton of wisdom from this book. However, there were some very enlightening points that Cal Newport made. So the final book I'm going to talk about in this video is a book that Tamara from her channel, My Fictional Worlds, and I'll link her channel in the description box. She chose this book for her Chapter Chat book club, and I chose to participate, and the book is Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi. A lot of booktubers have already read this book because it is not new, and a lot of YouTubers have raved over how fantastic it was, and they are absolutely correct. I was blown away by how amazing this work of fiction was. So it follows 2 sisters who are of the same father, different mothers, back in Africa. I want to say the timeline could be the early 1900s or 1800s. I'm foggy right now, but one sister is married off to a British soldier, a white man. The other sister is sold off into slavery. And you follow the lineage of their children, their children's children, so on and so forth. And it spans a great deal of time. And you see and feel how one decision from the very beginning has affected a lineage of people, and how your ancestors and your ancestors' ancestors, how the same traumas, the same mental issues, the same fears, maybe even hopes and dreams, how they carry through. And it was so beautiful to see and to read the storylines and how it all eventually came back together in the end, because these 2 sisters never met each other. Again, overall, 5 out of 5 stars for this book. I actually commented on another subscriber's page, and I can't think of her name right now, but she read Homegoing, and she made the comment that she wanted to, or wished there was a book for each character in this book. And I wholeheartedly agree. Every chapter was a different person you were introduced to of a particular lineage, and the stories, the chapters, in my opinion, were too short. Like, I wanted to know more. You know, what happened after this, because you follow this woman's child and her life, and she has a son. Then you go into his chapter and his life, then he has a son, and then you go, you know, it's like, I want to know how this particular person's life goes from birth to death. And I didn't get that, but it doesn't matter. The book was still amazing. I want her to follow up and make another book, either based off of Homegoing and the characters in it, or, you know, something else like it. The first book I read by Yaa Gyasi was Transcendent Kingdom, and I just thought it was, I may have given it 3 or 4 stars. It was okay. It was more of a character-driven story, not necessarily a plot-driven one. So those don't, they're not as engaging to me a lot of times. So I see why Homegoing should have probably been my first introduction to Yaa Gyasi, because it was absolutely fantastic. So that's all I have for you for the month of January. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you feel inclined to. If you like my content, please like the video. And I will see you in a couple weeks when I do another weekend reads video, more than likely talking about the Black Author Readathon and the books that I am reading to support that particular hashtag. So until next time, bye.